Hello everyone. Thank you for tuning in.
Hi.
Okay, then I'll start this session then. Yeah, thank you everyone, and thank you Yuri for joining in this session. This is week 2 and episode 2nd, and we successfully concluded week 1st. We had an overwhelming amount of responses from you guys. So thank you each and every one of you for participating in this Hacktoberfest with Aviyel event. And yeah, the results of your contribution is published. You can definitely check it out on Hacktoberfest with Aviyel server, and head over to Hacktoberfest with Aviyel channel, and there is a result. And congratulations to all the participants for joining us and contributing to the content. And yeah, week 1 was successful. We have an awesome amount of responses, plus we had an awesome speakers join in and tune in, and they gave an awesome amount of insights about their content creation journey, open source journey, Hacktoberfest, and open source related stuff. And this week, on the week 2nd, on the day before yesterday, we were joined by Harshvardhan Mishra. We learned about technical documentation, how to brew awesome technical documentation, how to write an awesome content, how you can start your journey as an open source contributor, and whole bunch of stuff. And today we are joined by Yuri. So she's an expert. Yeah, she's an expert in content creator. She's an expert in technical writing, and she's an self-taught developer. Plus, she was a lawyer before joining into this development field. And currently, she is working as an DevRel at Phonester. So if you want to check her out, you should definitely check her out on. She's actively on Twitter platform. So she goes by the name of Yuri Codes Bot. Drop the link of her Twitter channel on the public chat section. So yeah, that's about this entire session. So we will be learning about content creation, technical writing, and whole bunch of awesome stuff. And on week 3, so before I hand over the stage to Yuri, I'll give you a brief an idea about week 3 and week 4. So week 3 and week 4 is all about project. We have Metacode, Test Sigma, React Play, and whole bunch of other projects. So there are a bunch of events lined up from the maintainer or the creator of the project themselves, and they will host the event. You can join, or you can pick one particular project, join that event, learn from that event, and once you join that session, at the end of the session, you'll receive bunch of topic to write on, and you can start working. Pick one particular topic, and you can start working on that topic, and yeah, that's the way you can contribute to the project. So yeah, so the contribution was overwhelming. So the submission link for this week project, we'll submit it to you by tomorrow or day after tomorrow. So you can, after you have done, you are done with your content, you can submit it to that particular link. It will be on our Discord. And yeah, make sure you complete all your stuff, and only after that you can submit to that particular link. And now I'll hand over this entire stage to Yuri. She's an awesome human being, and she will guide you about technical content creation, technical writing, and whole bunch of other stuff. So yeah, I'm backing out for a while, and the stage is yours. You can start with your introduction. Yeah, Yuri. Yeah.
Thank you. Amazing. I'm really glad that the community has provided support for your event, because that's the beauty of open source. But let's just start with the presentation, and I'm gonna share my window, and let's go. Okay, so let's present. Okay, so today we're gonna be talking about content creation. I'm gonna be talking about tools. I'm gonna be talking about like mistakes that we all do, how to avoid them, what type of audiences you should focus on, and a lot of fun stuff. And Just stay tuned with me, okay? But who am I, right? Like my beloved friend said, I used to practice law, and then the pandemic hit, and I decided to switch to developer. I decided to be a self-taught full stack developer. That's what I currently am. And while I was transitioning, I noticed that the lack of resources for people that have zero technical knowledge, because I come from a completely non-technical background, was astonishing. So I decided to become a technical writer. Like the same thing. Like if you don't see the content that you want, create it. Why not? So I'm also a content creator. I create YouTube videos, how-to guides, tutorials. I have a blog. I have a newsletter. I like creating content on Twitter. So I'm really active on those platforms. And I'm also currently working as a developer relations advocate at Funester, which I love. It's an amazing work. So let's start the presentation. Technical content writing. The only purpose of technical writing is to make difficult concepts as easy as possible for the readers. Why? Because this is the first contact that you have with your users, that whether that be for your product, with your content consumers, or with developers. That's the first contact that you have with them. So you want to make it a remarkable one. You want to make that first contact frictionless. So instead, we see like technical writing thrown around all the time, but we rarely see like specific examples that are not documentation. So I listed a few. You have user guides, you have tutorials, you have case studies. All of this helps make technical writing what it is, and of course, a lot of other stuff. But these are like the most common examples on the field. So now that you know what technical writing is, you need to learn how to identify your audience so you can target your content better. Why? You can see that we have developers and we have users. Both of them have very different needs that you need to fulfill, whether that be with reading content, video content, guides, whatever it is, the type of content that you're making, they have different needs that need to be fulfilled. So we see that developers play more of an active role when interacting with content, reading documentation, watching videos. They are more interested in the API documentation, in the READMEs that explain the process, have source code, in the system documentation that has more technical knowledge, in the release notes that explains about upcoming versions and stuff like that, about the product. So we see that they play more of an active role, because if they like the product and if it's open source, they're more likely to want to contribute to that project. On the other side of the coin, we have users. They play a bit more of an active and passive role when reading your content or reading your documentation, watching your videos, whatever it is. They play more of an active and passive. Why? Because they're more interested in how-to guides, where you walk them through a task, on tutorials where you teach them something, where they leave knowing something, explanations where you go into deep about your product, about concepts, about things that they need to know, and reference documentation that is more technical, but still at a level that they can understand, because identifying your audience is going to help you know what type of voice you should use when talking to each and every one of them. Because as you can know, you cannot talk with developers the same way you're going to talk to users on your product, because it's not the same background knowledge, it's not the same technical knowledge. So after we've identified our audience and the things that we want with them and the voice that we want to use with them, now we need to think about the tools. As you can see, I have no preference for anyone because they're not sponsoring me. I'm kidding. But it's because I truly believe that tools should make your life easy. Like the platform that you choose should be providing visibility. As in, it should be pushing your content forward. You shouldn't have to worry about that. You shouldn't have to worry about constantly going after active users, active readers. The platform should do it by itself, depending on the content that you post, on the tags that you use. So that's a way of making your life easy. Another type of making your life easy is easy editing. You shouldn't struggle, especially like with Markdown. If you choose a blogging platform, most of them are using Markdown, you shouldn't struggle editing. You should be able to put like headers, you should be able to put paragraphs, images, videos, you name it, code snippets, you name it, in an easy way. You shouldn't be struggling every time you make content. So this is a very personal decision. You should look through the market and see which kind of tools are the best for you, because not everything works for everyone. And I think the most important part is that you own your own content. And this is particularly important if you're working with documentation, if you're working with articles. You want that content to be yours, especially if later you decide to make your own blog, or later you decide to make another platform or to use another platform. You should be able to secure your content and make sure that you own it and that you can use it on other tools and other platforms, on other websites that you use. And it's really important that you read the small letters of the contract and make sure that you own your content. So I think this is like the 3 steps that you should keep in mind when picking your tool. But now, okay, let's do a little bit of recap. We know about technical writing. We know about picking our audience, right? Now we know what type of tools we should use. So how do we start? Like, this is like the biggest question that I think we all get. How do we start? How can we start making content? And here I broke down the whole process. First, you start with an idea. Every content, every single thing that you see online, everything that has ever been made, it started with an idea. Now, you take that idea and you do your research. Even if you think you're an expert, even if you think there is nothing more than you can learn about it, there is always something that you can learn about anything. So you should do your research. Also, because your idea might be wrong, your idea might be small, your idea might not cover everything that you want to cover. So doing research might make you rethink that first idea that you had. So do your research, right? Then we go back, we determine our audience. Is it developers? Is it for users? The sweet point is to find like a middle ground where you can combine technical knowledge with an easy to follow words and tutorials and stuff like that. That's like the sweet spot, but you gotta determine your audience. Of course, you can write for them separately. There are a lot of cases of this, but you need to determine your audience so you know the tone of voice that your article or the content is gonna have. Now that we have determined our audience, we need to create an outline. Think of this as the skeleton of the content that you're gonna make. Think of it as, let's go to the Markdown example. Think of it as the headers, the paragraphs, the subtitles, the images. Think of it as how your content is gonna be structured, how you're gonna present it to the final viewer. And then the easiest part, because you've already done the hard part, sit down and write. That's it. Sit down, write everything you want, everything, examples, codes, whatever you want, and then review it. That's the last step. Review it. Sit there. After you write it, go take a walk, distract yourself, get out the mindset that you were creating content, and then come back and review it and see what things can be improved. See if the explanation that you gave was good. See if it makes sense for the reader. See a lot of things that a user that might stumble upon your content might see. So after you review it, you start all over again. Another example will be like, oh, I want to make a blog. You got to start with an idea. You got to do your research. You got to determine your audience. You got to create the outline and you got to write it and review it. So then you start again and start again. So this is the process of content creation. It's not just going with an idea and rolling with it. You got to do your research about it. So you can actually have like backed up knowledge of it, even if you're an expert. So now we know how to start, right? We have our article, we have written it, it's amazing, but we can identify some common mistakes that we see. Every time we see content, documentation, articles, whatever it is, we always find these common mistakes. And the first one is assuming the reader has the same technical knowledge as you. Don't ever do that. Don't ever assume that the reader has the same technical knowledge as you. And this can present itself by not disclosing definitions, by not disclosing content snippets, by not giving a user that has no idea about your product a way to identify it, a way to know what the article is about. Don't ever assume the reader has the same technical knowledge as you. And this second point goes really strongly tied to the first one, is not disclosing acronyms. This happens a lot, especially on tutorials or like technical writing. You see it a lot. And people don't usually, like, because they're writing for a developer audience. But example, I wanted to become a developer. So I was consuming that type of content. And every time they weren't disclosing acronyms, I was like, what is this? So I had to Google it. I had to Google, do my own research, think what it was for, think about use cases, and then come back to the article. And that's what you don't want. You don't want the user to leave your article. You don't want them to go looking for external sources of education. You want to be the source of education. So disclosing acronyms, it's like one of the most common mistakes that we see. And also using a passive voice instead of an active voice. Active voice, it's like, go follow me on Twitter. Go follow me on Hashnote. Self-promotion. I know, but go follow me. And that's active voice. Like, I'm encouraging you to do something. You know, I'm telling you, go and do it. I've done it. Now it's your turn. You know, see how I'm talking to you. Instead of using passive voice, like you should, maybe you might, that makes sentences a lot more wordy, and that's gonna make the user confused. So, and the reader. So don't try using passive voice. Use it when necessary, but try to stick with active voice. And now, the last common mistake that we usually see is skipping minor steps you think are a given. And this happens a lot. For example, a product that doesn't disclose how to install the CLI, the command line interface, that doesn't disclose how to actually contribute to their project because they think it's a given. You always gotta think about the user. You gotta think about their backgrounds, the different knowledge that they might have. So it all comes back to the first one. Don't ever assume the reader has the same technical knowledge as you. Try to disclose everything as clear as you can. So now that we've seen the common mistakes, we already have our article, right? We already have it. We have identified our audience. We did like our whole schema of the thing that we want to write, of the content that we want to create. We have seen common mistakes, but how can we improve our content? Because that's what everyone's here for. Like, nobody wants to have bad content outside, you know? So the first tip is to write in simple terms. By this, I mean simple English. You don't need to use overcomplicated terms when addressing an audience. You don't need to be extremely technical. Of course, there are ways that you can be technical and still cater to those audiences that aren't as technical. But you should write in simple terms. You should think of accessibility first, always, every time you're making content. And by writing in simple terms, you make your content more accessible to those that English might be not the first language that they speak. So that's always something good to keep in mind. Also, you should have a style guide. You don't have to do this from scratch. There are a lot of like examples online. You can copy, well, not copy, get inspired by some other style guides that you see out there. But this is gonna help the user feel more connected to your content because it's gonna follow a simple structure that they're gonna be used to. You know, it's gonna have the same technical explanations, the same images, the same structure, and it's gonna feel familiar for them. Also, like I said, you should always think about the users reading your documentation. Don't ever assume they have the same technical knowledge. Don't ever assume they know how to do what you're doing because you're explaining it to them. You should always be able to debrief every single thing that you're writing about. Of course, that doesn't mean that you're gonna make like a 5 pages long article, but you should be able to give like simple explanations in simple how and why we're doing the things that we're doing. Now think about inclusivity and accessibility. Try to make your content as accessible as possible. By this, I mean, if you're using Markdown, use header tags, use p tags, use image tags, use things that if someone with a screen reader was going through your content, it's easy for them to understand what's going on, what your intent was, and to leave with the same type of knowledge that someone that is not using a screen reader will. Now, you should get also community feedback. This is the best way to improve your content. Of course, I need to clarify, you are not the content that you make. You should detach yourself from the content that you make because you're gonna get bad feedback, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. You're gonna get awful feedback, and you gotta know how to separate yourself from your content. Your content is something that you do. It's not you. Even, it doesn't matter how long it took you. It doesn't matter how invested you were. It's not you. So you should be able to detach yourself and be able to improve from the community feedback, of course, when it's given like in a correct manner. Like, oh, I did like your article, but you could have done this better. You know, you could have shown this code snippet better. You could have explained it better. That way you're more open to feedback and you can grow as a content creator, because that's the most important part, because you're always growing. Like we can see, like tech is always changing, it's always improving. So are we people working in tech. So are the users, so are the products. So you need to be able to get feedback and adapt to it. And now, consistency and adaptability. Like I said, you need to adapt to the feedback, you need to adapt to the changes. But all of this that I've said on all the other slides means nothing if you're not consistent. Trust me, if you're not consistent, it doesn't matter what type of advice or who is giving you the advice, it's not gonna work. You gotta be consistent. You gotta pick a platform. You gotta be there. If you have troubles managing your time, if you have issues like with things that you have to do, and of course we all have lives, we all have responsibilities. We don't want to be like creating content 24/7 because it gets tiring. You can burn out. There are tools online that you can use to schedule content to send out at different times. There are a lot of tools online. You should check that out. But consistency is what's ultimately going to make you improve your content. Consistency and feedback. That's all you need. You need to be there and present yourself. You got to say, this is my voice. I have something to say. This is my content. This is what I'm making. You know, even if you see, because I see like something that holds back a lot of people from making content is that they see the content that they want to make already. As in, I post, let's say, an article. Somebody here wants to create an article on the same topic and they don't because I've already written one. No, I want you to write that. Why? Because you have a different voice. You have a different type of addressing topics than I do. And everyone does. That's why I encourage everyone to create content. Even if you see like a lot of content on HTML, people are going to consume your content because of the way you explain it, because of the way you connect with people, because of how good your examples are, how good your projects are, you know? So you should never feel discouraged because you see other people creating the content that you want to see. You should take that as an inspiration and be like, oh, look, they're writing about that. So like, that means like I'm on the right track. So just go out there, create your content and just start. Like, let me just end like this presentation with a little bit of motivation talk. Just start. That's it. That's my that's my motivation talk. Just start. You have no idea where that's gonna take you. I would recommend starting with a blog if you don't like showing your face. That's how I started. I started in blogs. I started Twitter Spaces, and now I'm doing webinars. So it has been escalating. You know, it wasn't like I jumped right into this. But yeah, just start. Just putting yourself out there. If you're on Twitter, join Twitter Spaces. Try to participate. Even if you think you have nothing to say, you do. You do. Your views matter. Your opinions matter. If you have any question, it matters. Okay? So don't just sit there and passively ingest content. Like, try to make your own content. Try to make the content that you want to see. Like when I said in the beginning, what inspired me to create content was that I wasn't seeing the content that I wanted. So I was like, well, that looks like a job for me. So, you know, so I decided to start making content. So you gotta find that thing that motivates you and start making content. So with that, I'm closing the presentation. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate being a speaker here. This has been amazing.
I have one question for you. So what advice that you can give to the beginners or newbie who are just starting their content creation or technical writing journey? I mean, a brief advice.
You see, I should do it again because I gave I gave advice at the end. Just recommend starting. I started with blogs, and then I started doing Twitter Spaces, and then I started doing webinars. So it went escalating. So you gotta find a platform that you're the most comfortable in, and then start creating content consistently there so you can see results. So it's just about starting and just being consistent. Just start. And if you see the content that you're making has been already made, still do it. Do it, because nobody has your same tone of voice. Nobody has the same way of explaining things that you do. So I will just say, just do it. Just start and worry about like the feedback and the stuff later. Just the important thing is to start and create a habit of making content so that it gets easier in the future.
Yeah, awesome. So one another question. So how do you manage your time by doing DevRel stuff and writing content and creating a YouTube videos. Plus, there are, I checked out your TikTok as well. So how do you manage your time in a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, I think that my life-saving tip is to use like content management platforms and schedule content to be sent out, because there is not enough of you to to go to those different type of like platforms and create content and post it. So you should like have a way of managing that type of demand that people have, or like you have set yourself to a certain standard monthly. So use platforms that allow you to schedule your content, and that's gonna save you from a lot of wasted time. You can just sit and create content and schedule it and send it out, and you handle the responses and stuff.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So yeah, one final question as well from my side, before we jump into the Q&A. Yeah, I'm curious about your journey. So, how and why did you decide to jump into tech field from your lawyer journey? When did it happen?
I've always been in,
Yeah.
and at first I thought that like when the pandemic first started, that's when I transitioned to tech. So at first I was like, well, this is fun. Like when people ask me what do I do for fun, I just say like, oh, coding, like whatever. But then I started coding and I started doing stuff, and I just loved it, and I fell in love with it, and I started building in public. I started building people that were following me too. Like I started helping them. I started making content for them. So that's something that I really find enjoyable, and I can see myself doing it like in the long time. And that's something I didn't get with law. I never saw myself doing law for more than 10 years, but I can absolutely see myself doing this for like the rest of my days.
Yeah, yeah, awesome, awesome. Okay, one final question from my side, one last. So, how did your technical writing and content creation journey help you on the tech bit, on your coding journey and your tech side?
It helps a lot, because when you're teaching, you learn twice. And the process that you have to go through when creating a content is doing your own research. So when you do that type of research, that's my dog. I'm sorry. She's acting up. And you gotta do your own research, and that helps you a lot, especially with technical content and technical concepts that you might need for an interview, for a coding interview. And it actually helped me a lot, because it helped me land this job that I have, because of the content I was putting out, the videos, the spaces that I was part of and hosting. It all came together to create like an online presence that I knew what I was doing. Especially being self-taught, that's so important for you to have like a background of like the things that you've done and the things you've accomplished. So it has helped me a lot, and it has landed me like opportunities writing for companies. So I will say it's incredible. I will recommend everyone to just start. If you have doubts, just go ahead, and if you're gonna be fine. Nothing's gonna happen. Trust me.
Exactly. So if you want to start your content creation journey, then you can definitely start it right now, because you'll learn a lot while writing it. The best way to learn is by writing it. So start writing right now. So yeah, there is one question on our Q&A section. So there is one question from Enigme. He says that resources that you recommend that made your coding journey or made your journey easy. So are there any resources that you can share?
Yeah, a lot. We're gonna be here for a while. I'm kidding. I mostly used Free Code Camp. I used also a course called JavaScript for 30 days or something like that. 30 days of JavaScript by Westboss. That's amazing if you want to get like the basics of like JavaScript after you finish a course, because JavaScript is really hard. Also, I took like a bootcamp from Angela Yu. I took CS50. All of that is free. you can get it for free. I never like paid for courses. And YouTube is also there. So if you have any type of questions, any type of things that you want like deeper knowledge in, you should Google it, and you're probably gonna find a video about it. And those are the things that made like my journey easy. But also joining a community. I joined Tech Twitter when I was learning JavaScript, so I was really early in my journey. Because how the FreeCodeCamp curriculum works is that you learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and libraries, so front-end libraries. So I joined Tech Twitter when I was struggling. So the community is really helpful. Like if you ask questions, at the time I didn't have any following, because I'm telling you, like I just joined, I completely joined. And you just sharing your journey is gonna make people connect with you. And if you share your struggles, it's gonna make people even more likely to connect with you, because they're like, oh, I'm going through that too. Let's connect. Let's get to help each other, you know? And that's the beauty of Tech Twitter. I would recommend everyone to go to Tech Twitter and create a Twitter account and join the community, because everyone's so helpful there. So besides those resources, of course, I will learn like 8 hours a day. I will take it like university, you know, like discipline, Hawkeye, like straight up, like a lot of time. And I was really like interested in, I had a goal in mind that I wanted to like achieve, and that was a job in tech. I wanted to do that. And when you have like a clear goal, it's easier for you to stick to your journey, because there are gonna be a lot of days that is gonna be hard, that you're not gonna know the answer. You're gonna find a lot of bugs, especially working with JavaScript or Python, that one space is gonna ruin the whole the whole code for some reason. And yeah, you just gotta stick to it. You gotta have a clear goal, and that's gonna make your journey easy, and connect with people on the same journey. Of course, you're not gonna be at the same time, at the same content, but on the same journey, people that are still learning with you, so you can rely on each other.
Yeah, exactly. I hope that answered your question. So yeah, keep engaging with with the tech community, and start sharing your content, start focusing, and start giving your focus 8 to 10 hours per day. If you want to.
No, I wouldn't recommend that. I was unemployed. I just want to clarify, I was unemployed. I had nothing to do. I don't have kids. I am just me. So I didn't have anyone depending on me. So that's why I could like dedicate that much time to learn, and not only like practice, but to learn and practice. And you should find a schedule that works for you. Do not take my advice on hours, because this was when the pandemic hit. Everything was closed. Nobody was expecting anything from anyone. So it was safe to spend that amount of time on just learning. But if you're able to, fine, but take breaks, okay? But like find your own rhythm, find what works for you, find what platforms work for you, because FreeCodeCamp might not work for you, maybe the Odin Camp, something like that. Just find what works for you, and try to adapt that routine to fit your needs, and that's gonna make it way
Yeah,
easier.
exactly. But there is a saying that 10,000, if you put 10,000 hours of effort, then you can be expert in something. So yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
then I hope that answers your question.
The
Yeah.
trouble is,
So yeah, if you have any question, then you can shoot it out right now. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
me for you. Let's go. If you have any type of questions about like writing or anything, just let me know.
There is a Q&A section. You can shoot it out on the Q&A section, or you can drop it on the chat. I'll pick it up. Might be unrelated, but how do you connect with developers or folks in your field?
The best way I've done it, it's through Twitter, through spaces. That's how you get to know people. That's how you get to connect with them like on a human level instead of just interacting with the tweets, that you can actually hear what they sound like, what they actually think like. And I would recommend Tech Twitter and also blogging platforms. That's an easy way to connect with developers interested in your content and just start interacting with them, start commenting on their stuff, and reach out to them. Remember that everyone on tech Twitter and the tech community is a person, so you can just hit them up and be like, "Hi, I really enjoy this type of content. I'm creating content too. Do you have any tips? Do you have any advice?" And they're more likely to reply to you. Just don't DM them hi. I've heard that that's a no-no. But if you like show genuine interest in what they're doing, it's gonna be fine. So just either tech Twitter or blogging platforms are gonna help you connect with developers.
So yeah, I'll share you guys the link of Yuri's Twitter, so you can definitely check it out. And she has an awesome sets of articles published on Hashnode as well. You can definitely check it out there as well. So yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you, Yuri, especially for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
It was an awesome session. And yeah, this is the end of episode 2, week 2nd, Hacktoberfest with Aviyel. So thank you everyone for. And yeah, there are a list of articles. You can pick it up on our Aviyel server, Hacktoberfest with Aviyel. There is one spreadsheet. Pick one particular topic. You can start working on that. You have 1 week to submit. 1 week, as in October 18th, is the deadline. So you have around 6 to 7 days to write one article and submit it. And yeah, and you can tune into our next session with Tapas next week. So it will be an interesting journey. So thank you very much, Yuri, for joining us and making this session even more brighter. And yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you then.
Thank you. This was amazing. Bye everyone. Have
Bye-bye.
a nice one.